All right, let's dive into one of the most talked about and maybe misunderstood concepts in the entire Bible, the Great Tribulation. Now, for a lot of people, those words bring up images of a future apocalypse. But what if the source material is pointing to something completely different, something that's already happened? And that changes everything for us, right now. Let's get into it. So our whole investigation really kicks off right here, with this incredibly powerful and, honestly, kind of mysterious vision from the book of Revelation. You have this elder, and he points to this huge crowd of people in white robes and gives this just stunning explanation. It's a sentence that's just packed with paradox. Washed white in blood? And they came out of a great tribulation? What does that even mean? And yeah, that really brings us to the core question we're tackling. Who are these people? And more importantly, what exactly is this great tribulation? Is it some future event that we're all just waiting around for? Or could it be something else entirely? The answer, you'll see, might just change the way you look at a whole lot of things. Okay, before we jump into a totally new way of looking at this, let's get on this same page with the familiar view. When most of us hear the words Great Tribulation, our minds immediately go to a future time of just intense, worldwide suffering and judgment, right? A scary, apocalyptic event that you'd hope to survive or, escape altogether. And you can see the two views laid out side by side, right here. It's a huge contrast. On one side, you've got the popular idea, a future event, an outpouring of God's wrath. But on the other side, the source material we're looking at presents this radical shift. It says it's a past event, and it's not about the outpouring of wrath, but the absorption of it. It's not something to run from, but something to identify with to find victory. So here's the turn. This is where we pivot away from what we've always heard, and we dive headfirst into this radical reinterpretation, and it's grounded right in the text. This is where we get to look at this famous concept through a completely new lens. And there it is, this central argument, plain and simple. The Great Tribulation wasn't a future apocalypse. It was the cross. It was the suffering of Jesus, the single greatest spiritual event the world has ever known. It was that definitive moment in all of history where the full, crushing weight of sin and judgment was met head-on. And look, this isn't an idea that just came out of nowhere. This source points us way back to prophecies like this one in Isaiah. It's describing a figure who takes on suffering for other people. That's the language of substitution, where one person endures the chastisement, the tribulation, so that others can have peace. I mean, just try to wrap your head around the sheer intensity of that moment. These are Jesus' own words from the cross. This cry, it reveals an unimaginable spiritual agony. The weight of all the sin in the world, the experience of being separated from God the Father. That was the ultimate tribulation. Okay, so you might be thinking, if the cross was the Great Tribulation, how does that fit with the original verse in Revelation? Well, to really see the connection, we've got to do a little detective work and unlock the meaning that's kind of hidden in the original Greek text. This is where the language itself really opens everything up. So check this out. Let's break down 3 really important Greek words. First, phlipsis, the word for tribulation. It literally means crushing pressure, like a deep personal trial, not some big global catastrophe. Next, erchomenoi, for came out of. It's actually a present particle, which means the ones coming out of, suggesting this is a continuous, ongoing reality. And finally, leukano, to make white. This isn't just about covering something up, it means to make it radiantly, brilliantly white, a total transformation. Let's just focus in on that key term for a second. Thlipsis. Understanding that this word means pressure is, well, it's a game changer. It reframes the entire concept. The Great Tribulation suddenly becomes the Great Pressure, the ultimate spiritual and emotional crushing that Jesus endured for us. Okay, so this is all really fascinating theology, but what's the point, right? What does it actually mean for you and me today? This is where we go from an abstract idea to something incredibly practical. How does this shift our whole perspective from being victims of our circumstances to being victors in Christ? Here's the most crucial point. If Jesus already took on the ultimate pressure of judgment on the cross, then all the tribulations, all the pressures and hardships that we face in our own lives, they're no longer about God's punishment. They're seen in a completely different light. They're totally reframed. And listen, Jesus tells us this directly. He doesn't say, hey, you might be able to avoid tribulation or slipsis. He says you will have it. But the command isn't to be afraid of it. It's to be of good cheer. And why? Because he has already overcome the world, the ultimate tribulation. We get to face our own pressures from his position of victory, not from a place of defeat.
So the path to victory kind of looks like this. Step 1, Jesus took the hit. He endured the great pressure on the cross. Step 2, through our faith, we are spiritually united with him in that moment. We spiritually came out of that tribulation with him. And that leads to step 3, our own hardships, our own pressures. They become a pathway to build patience and strength because we know the ultimate battle has already been won. And this is the result. This perspective doesn't just make us survivors who barely get by. No, it makes us more than conquerors. We don't just endure hardship, we actually overcome through the one who already overcame everything for us. We walk through our trials from a place of victory.
So, let's circle all the way back to that really startling image we began with. Washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Now, with this new understanding of tribulation, that paradox becomes even more powerful, doesn't it? I mean, when you really think about it, the imagery is just shocking. Blood stains things red, right? It doesn't make anything white. But this verse declares the impossible. The blood of the Lamb, symbolizing his ultimate sacrifice during the great tribulation of the cross, it does what nothing else can. It doesn't just cover up sin, it completely cleanses and purifies, making us radiantly, brilliantly white. All right, let's just do a quick recap of the big ideas here. First, the great tribulation was the cross. Second, the word tribulation really means intense personal pressure. Third, through faith, we get to identify with Christ's victory over that ultimate pressure. And because of that, our personal hardships are reframed as opportunities to become overcomers. And finally, salvation through his sacrifice is a total transformative cleansing.
So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. If the greatest tribulation, the absolute ultimate pressure of judgment, has already been met and has already been conquered, how does that fundamentally change the way we face our own battles today? The pressures, the anxieties, the trials in our own lives. That's a powerful thing to think about.